So this video is just to go over the composition example that I gave on Monday, September 11th, because I didn't want to do it on my iPad and so it wasn't recorded. So f of x was equal to 2x minus 1, and g of x was equal to x squared. And remember, we talked about the fact that the letters f and g are just a way of naming the function. It doesn't even matter. So for this particular video, I could have said p of x, k of x, r of x, h of x, it doesn't matter. So we get to decide that. The x in the parentheses just tells the reader that x is what I would be plugging in for. So if I had numbers, I would be plugging in for x. So we're going to be using x to find two composition problems. So the first one is going to be f, and we're going to do open circle just so we make sure we know the difference between the two. So f open circle g of x is not fog, it's f of g of x. That is the same as having f and inside the parentheses having g of x. So the g of x function is literally inside the f function. So we talked about in class that a simple way to think about that is that the f function is eating the g function. And what that will look like is that we're going to replace the variable, meaning the letter, in function f with what g of x is equal to. So just to give us more steps so that we can see what's going to happen, we talked about in class that equal means the same. So instead of writing f of g of x, I'm going to write f of x squared. And the more you get practice with evaluating functions, the more this notation will make sense. So if you understand that when you do f of 1 or g of 10, that means you plug in 10 for the variable, well, it's no different than when it is a variable. It doesn't change anything. So whether it's f of a variable, f of an expression, or f of a number, what we do is the same. So we're going to replace the x in my f function, which is the purple one, with x squared. And it's always a good idea to use parentheses. So that x is now going to be an x squared. That is how you compose. So I literally plug what g of x was equal to in for the variable for the f function. And then you always want to simplify. So we would do 2 times x squared, and remember there's an imaginary 1, so it's 2 times 1, which is 2, and then it's x squared minus 1. So you always multiply numbers with numbers, so nothing on my power changes because I don't have anything with a base of x. And since 2x squared and negative 1 are not like terms, this problem is done. Now, we're going to do one more that we didn't do in class, but just so that you can see. If I do g open circle f, all I really did was switch the letters around. But in actuality, for a composition problem, it kind of changes the whole thing. So g open circle f of x is the same as having g, and then in the parentheses, I know you guys know by now it's going to be f of x. So this time, I am replacing what f of x is equal to inside of my g function. So again, equal means the same. And so this would be g of 2x minus 1. And again, whatever is inside the parentheses, whether it's a number or whether it's an expression like 2x minus 1, that is how mathematically we are telling you you're going to plug that in, substitute that in for the variable in the equation. And so for my g function, this is that is my variable in that equation. So instead of having an x, I am literally going to replace that with 2x minus 1. And again, always, always, always a good idea to use parentheses. Okay, so it would be 2x minus 1 all squared. And so again, if it's a multiple choice problem, I would look at the answer G and see, like, does it still have parentheses? If it still has parentheses, then all is well and you don't have to do anything. If it doesn't have parentheses, and that means you have to either use your box or you have to distribute. And I'll try to say the word distribute more instead of FOIL, but just so you know where the word FOIL comes from, if you have 2x minus 1 parentheses 2x minus 1, the reason why I call it FOIL is because when I learned it, it's the first times the first. So 2 times 2, that gives me a 4. The power on x is 1. When you multiply things with the same power, you add. So 1 plus 1 tells me that power is a 2. Then the O stands for outer. That would be 2x times a negative 1. That's a negative 2x. The I stands for inner. So you would do the inner two terms, which is negative 1 times a positive 2x, which again is a negative 2x. And then the L, as you can probably guess, is going to be the last and the last. So negative 1 times negative 1 is a positive 1. So that's why I often call it foiling. But distributing is a way better term. And so once you're there, you combine like terms only. So only if they have the same letter with the same power. So we have a negative 2x, so I forgot to box the negative, and another negative 2x. So if the signs are the same, you add and keep the sign. So a negative 2 and a negative 2, the signs are the same, so I'm going to add them, which is 4. But since they're both negative, I'm going to leave them negative. So that 4x squared minus 4x plus 1 is what you get when you do G composed of F, which means that's my answer when I plug in what F is equal to for the variable of x in the G function.